Part 69. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 681. Chapter 681. I always feel like something is weird. You're welcome, eat quickly, the ice will melt in a while. I have to give it to others, so I'm leaving first. After the assistant finished speaking, he carried the bag and walked towards the others. Iced mung bean soup, I don't know how comfortable it is to drink a bowl of it in summer. Chiao Mian saw that others also had a share and it was not bought for her alone, so she opened the box and ate it with peace of mind. While she was eating happily, she didn't see a black Bentley parked under a big tree not far away. Hand down the car window halfway. The man sitting in the car had a noble and handsome face and a noble and cold temperament. A pair of deep and cold eyes fell on the man who was walking towards Chiao Mian. His eyes darkened and a chilling air emanated from his body. He took out his mobile phone and made a call. Asterisk. Is it tasty? Chiao Mian was eating happily when a voice came from above her head. Is a clear and pleasant teenage sound. She raised her head, shook the half-eaten mung bean soup, smiled and nodded, yes, it's delicious. Mr. Tu, thank you for the mung bean soup. You're welcome. Tuyuli looked at the bright smile on her lips and was in a daze for a few seconds before returning to normal. Today is your first day on the set, how do you feel? It's not bad. Chiao Mian scooped a spoonful of mung beans into her mouth and seemed to be in a good mood. I learned a lot today, which is pretty good. Huh, Tuyuli, I was a little surprised by this answer. The few times Huang Yilin made a mistake in her performance, a fool could tell that she did it on purpose. Are you not angry, Tuyuli? I glanced down at her, his eyes falling on her red lips from eating mung bean paste. After staying there for a few seconds, his heart suddenly started to beat a little faster. Angry, why should I be angry? Because. Just as Tuyuli was about to speak, he saw a crew member coming over. Miss Jiao, Director Bai has something to do with you, please come with me. Director Bai, what do you want from me? Chiao Mian looked around and saw that Bai Yisheng was no longer at the filming location. Yes, the staff member said again, Director Bai is still waiting for you, Miss Jiao, let's go. Oh well. Chiao Mian raised her head and drank the last mouthful of mung bean soup, then stood up and said, Mr. Tu, I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. I'll treat you to mung bean soup another day. After she finished speaking, she followed the staff and left. Tuyuli stood there, watching her and the staff member walking further and further away, with a trace of hesitation and entanglement flashing in his eyes. Finally, he slowly took back the steps he took. If Bai Yisheng really fell in love with her, can he be able to rob it? What will happen if you rob Bai Yisheng of a woman? He does not have as prominent a family background as Bai Yisheng. Every step he took to get to where he is today was not easy. It's all the result of his hard work. Sometimes, he wants to be willful and must weigh the consequences. He likes Chiao Mian. But if this love requires him to exchange his future career, he can't afford it. Asterisk. Chiao Mian followed the staff to an indoor rest area. As soon as we walked outside the lounge door, the staff left. Tell her that Bai Yisheng is inside. Chiao Mian stood outside the door for a while, a trace of doubt flashing in her eyes. I always feel like something is weird. This place seems to be a little secretive. What did Bai Yisheng want to say to her? Why would he choose a place like this? She stood outside the door for a while. After hesitating for almost a full minute, she reached out and knocked on the door. With a click, the door opened from the inside. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 682. Chapter 682. I don't think so, huh? A hand stretched out from inside. Chiao Mian subconsciously took a step back. but the outstretched hand still grasped her firmly. She screamed out and was pulled into the room by a strong force. At the same time, there was a bang sound, the door was closed, and she was grabbed and pushed against the door. The figure in front of her was tall and straight, and her eyes were all black. Before Chiao Mian could see clearly who was holding her in, her jaw was pinched, and the man followed her with a domineering and hot kiss, deep and hard. Kissed her. Her eyes widened in horror. Well. Just as he was about to struggle, a familiar breath rushed into his nose. In his dark, moist eyes, fear turned into surprise. This breath. It's Mo Yesi. Why did he come here? Her doubts only lasted for a few seconds before she became confused and fascinated by the man's increasingly passionate kisses. She almost couldn't stand any more and slid down. The man held his arms around her waist and gently lifted her up, pressing her hard against his chest. This is a kiss of punishment. God knows, we were only separated for a day. He missed her so deeply. Chiao Mian lay on his chest and gasped for a long time before she slowly recovered. Her eyes seemed to be filled with mist, and she raised her watery black eyes to look at him, feeling as if she was in a dream. Mo Yesi, how did you come here? You're not. Aren't you at work? Today is not the weekend either. How could he have time to come find her? Moreover, he didn't even tell her in advance when he came. Just now, when she was pulled into the room by him, she was almost scared to death. Baby, I miss you. Mo Yesi hugged her tightly, couldn't help but lowered his head to kiss her again, took her lips into his mouth and whispered softly, I don't think so, huh. When Chiao Mian spoke, her voice was soft and hoarse, but, aren't you at work? What will happen to the company if you leave? He just took over the Mo family not long ago. She knew that he would be very busy for at least a year. Normally, when he returns home, he will go to the study to work overtime. Come here on a non-weekend time, does he not care about the company's affairs? What, you're not happy to see me? Mo Yesi lowered his eyes and glanced at the little woman in his arms, but didn't find any surprise or joy on her face. He suddenly frowned dissatisfied. He thought again of the photo that Bai Yisheng sent him. In the photo, she and the male protagonist seemed to be chatting happily, and the smiles on their faces were very sweet. But she had never smiled that much when she saw him. The little bit of jealousy in my heart gradually fermented under such a contrast and began to become more and more intense. Bai Yisheng said that the male protagonist is about the same age as her. They are of the same age and are in the same circle, so they will definitely be very topical. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 683. Chapter 683. Suddenly, there is a sense of age crisis. A hand stretched out from inside. Chiao Mian subconsciously took a step back. But the outstretched hand still grasped her firmly. She screamed out and was pulled into the room by a strong force. At the same time, there was a bang sound, the door was closed, and she was grabbed and pushed against the door. The figure in front of her was tall and straight, and her eyes were all black. Before Chiao Mian could see clearly who was holding her in, her jaw was pinched. The man's domineering and hot breath surrounded her heavily, and he stretched out his arms to hug her. Her eyes widened in horror, and just as she was about to struggle, a familiar breath rushed into her nose. In his dark, moist eyes, fear turned into surprise. This breath. It's Mo Yesi. Why did he come here? Chiao Mian raised her watery black eyes to look at the man in front of her, feeling as if she was in a dream. Mo Yesi, how come you are here? You are not. Aren't you at work? Today is not the weekend either. How could he have time to come find her? Moreover, he didn't even tell her in advance when he came. Just now, when she was pulled into the room by him, she was almost scared to death. "Baby, I missed you, so I came to find you." Moyesi hugged her tightly. "I don't think so, huh? But, aren't you at work? What will happen to the company if you leave? He just took over the Mo family not long ago." She knew that he would be very busy for at least a year. Normally, when he returns home, he will go to the study to work overtime. Come here on a non-weekend time. Does he not care about the company's affairs? "What, you're not happy to see me?" Moyesi lowered his eyes and glanced at the little woman in his arms, but didn't find any surprise or joy on her face. He suddenly frowned dissatisfied. He thought again of the photo that Bai Yisheng sent him. In the photo, she and the male protagonist seemed to be chatting happily, and the smiles on their faces were very sweet. But she had never smiled that much when she saw him. The little bit of jealousy in my heart gradually fermented under such a contrast and began to become more and more intense. Bai Yisheng said that the male protagonist is about the same age as her. They are of the same age and are in the same circle, so they will definitely be very topical. That's why she was so happy chatting with him. And he is 5 years older than her. 25 years old is naturally a very young age for men. He should not have a sense of crisis. But at this moment, he suddenly felt a sense of age crisis. He and she are not of the same age. They are not in the same circle either. He has not had any experience in love yet. Would she feel bored being with him? Although she had never said that, she didn't seem to have said that she was happy to be with him. He felt his heart sinking more and more, and the in his eyes dissipated little by little. He squinted his eyes, and his gaze became a little sharp. Chiao Mian was originally a sensitive person. She immediately noticed the change in Moyesi's mood. Facing his sharp eyes, she was stunned for a moment and said with some anxiety, "Moyesi, what's wrong with you? You haven't answered what I just said." Moyesi tried his best to suppress the sour feeling in his heart, took a deep breath, and repeated the question again, "Aren't you happy to see me?" Chiao Mian, of course not. Although she didn't know why the man in front of her suddenly became unhappy, she was still very happy to see him at this time. She reached out and hooked his neck, raised her face, raised the corners of her lips and said, "I'm very happy. When I saw you, I thought I was dreaming." The smile on the girl's lips was so sweet that it made his heart skip a beat. Moyesi was cured instantly. All the unhappiness in her heart disappeared when she took the initiative to approach him. "Did you miss me then?" The man, who was still radiating coldness 1 second, the ice on his body melted the next second, his thin lips curled up into a smile, and he asked in a gentle voice. Chiao Mian pursed her lips, with a shy look on her face, and nodded lightly under his gentle and affectionate gaze. The two of them are in the period of passionate love. A time when I wish we could stick together all the time. Suddenly separated, both of us were a little uncomfortable with it. Although they had only been separated for a day, she still missed him quite a bit. Hearing her answer, the smile on the man's lips deepened and his eyes became gentler. He reached out and touched her hair, then gently brushed her bun, picked her up while her body was still soft, and carried her to the sofa to sit down. The man's strong arms wrapped around her, and he pulled the petite girl into his arms little by little. He put his chin on the top of her hair and rubbed it gently. "Did the shooting go well today? Are you uncomfortable with getting here, the place?" Chiao Mian leaned against him obediently, grabbed one of his hands, pinched his slender white fingers and played with them. "It's going very smoothly, and I'm very adaptable to the environment and climate here. At the moment, there's nothing I'm not used to." Place. The climates of F-City and Yunchinj are similar. The only difference is that it will be cooler in the morning and evening, and the humidity here will be heavier at night. As for the food, the taste is pretty much the same. That's good. Mo Yesi lowered his head and saw her grabbing his fingers and squeezing them like a toy. He curled his lips lovingly and reached out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ears. If there's anything you're not used to, just tell me. How do you get along with the other people on the set? Does anyone bully you? Chiao Mian was silent for a moment and shook her head. No. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 684. Chapter 684, My husband will take you there immediately. The moment she was silent made Mo Yesi suspicious. He squinted his eyes, lowered his head, and looked at the little woman in his arms with inquiry. Really not? Well, really not. She didn't want to tell him about such a thing. Anyway, it's almost solved. Just stop saying it and make him worry about her. Mo Yesi stared at her thoughtfully for a while, and did not ask any more questions. He nodded and said, That's fine. If someone bullies you and makes you unhappy, just tell me. I'll help you vent your anger. The air conditioner in the lounge is turned on fully. Chiao Mian lay in Mo Yesi's arms, talking to him all the time. She didn't know whether it was because the air conditioning was too comfortable, or because it was too comfortable to lean against his chest. As she spoke, her eyelids it becomes heavy. Asterisk. Chiao Mian woke up and was moved to Mo Yesi's car. But she was still held by him. Her head was resting on the man's lap next to her, her face was facing his abdomen, and her arms were tightly holding his waist. He was covered with a thin black blanket. There was only one light on in the car, and the light was very dim. Outside the car window, the street lights were already on, and the sky was pitch black. Chiao Mian opened her eyes and was stunned for a while before slowly coming back to her senses. Baby, you're awake. A low and gentle voice came from above the head. The man reached out to brush away the hair on her cheek and touched her eyes. Are you hungry? Can I take you to eat? Chiao Mian blinked and slowly sat up on his legs. She stroked her forehead with one hand, turned her head and looked at the night scene outside the car window. She opened her eyes wide and said, It's already dark. How long have I been sleeping? Mo Yesi raised his wrist and looked at the time. About 3 hours. 3 hours. Chiao Mian's eyes opened even wider. I actually slept for so long? What about the crew? Don't worry, I've said hello to you. Mo Yesi stretched out his hand and pulled him back into his arms. Your director said that you have finished shooting today's scenes and you can leave early. Is that so? Chiao Mian looked at him a little doubtfully. Have you really said hello to the director? He said I can leave early. Mo Yesi said funnily, why did I lie to you? Then the director is not happy. Leave early on the first day. She felt quite uneasy. No, Mo Yesi thought about Bai Yisheng's reaction at that time. Seems quite happy. Same, how can he be unhappy? The heroine and investment for the next drama were successfully settled. He would also be happy if it were him. Chiao Mian breathed a sigh of relief. She reached out and touched her belly, feeling like she was in the mood to eat. Mo Yesi, I'm hungry, she said in a soft voice. Let's go eat quickly. Mo Yesi pinched her face lovingly. Well, what do you want to eat? My husband will take you there right away. Chiao Mian is really hungry now. It is now past 9 o'clock in the evening. She had a lunch box at noon. Anything is fine. She touched her belly, which was already flattened by hunger, and her voice was a little weak. Asterisk. Mo Yesi found a hotel nearby. Chiao Mian was very hungry. As soon as the food was served, she ate it with open stomach. In front of Mo Yesi, she didn't care about her image, and she ate in an unladylike manner. Mo Yesi didn't have much appetite at first, but seeing how delicious she ate, he ate a lot without knowing it. After finishing the meal and paying the bill, the two of them walked out of the hotel hand in hand. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 685. Chapter 685 I have to rely on you. Aren't you going back today? Chiao Mian looked at the time, then looked at the dark night outside, and asked softly. Mo yes, he stopped. He turned his head, raised his thin lips in a slight arc, and looked down at her with a half smile. Baby, do you want me to go back? I. Chiao Mian raised her head and met his deep and charming eyes. Her heartbeat suddenly jumped a few times. After being silent for a while, she bit her lip and whispered, of course I hope you can stay. But, isn't your company still there? Do you have a lot to do? Would it be bad if you didn't go back? The man's low and laughter fell above his head. Chiao Mian blinked and glared at him. Why are you laughing? Mo Yesi reached out and rubbed her head. Baby, you just need to tell me if you want me to stay. If you want me to stay, I will stay. If you want me to go back, then I will go back. I will listen to you. As for other things, you don't have to worry about them. Chiao Mian struggled for a while and decided to follow her heart. Then, you can stay. Anyway, he said so, he doesn't worry about his company anymore, why should she worry so blindly? She didn't force him to stay. As soon as she finished speaking, she heard Mo Yesi chuckle again. His big hand holding her fingers squeezed between her fingers one by one, clasping her fingers tightly. Okay, listen, honey, I'll keep it calm down. Chiao Mian couldn't help but raise the corners of her lips. She moved her fingers and clasped his. You said this yourself. I didn't force you. If you delay your company's affairs by staying with me, I will not be responsible. When the time comes, don't blame me. Well, I don't blame you, Mo Yesi said gently, I have to rely on you. You are trapped by me and have no choice. Well, that's good if you know. Chiao Mian suppressed a smile and said, yes, that's right, you insisted on pestering me. The night is dark. The night in F City is a bit cool. Chiao Mian didn't want to just go back to the hotel, so she led Mo Yesi down the steps. When he took out the car keys and unlocked the door, and was about to get in the car, she gently pulled his arm. Mo Yesi turned his head and raised his eyebrows slightly. Huh. Chiao Mian pursed her lips, and then said, I just ate, and my stomach feels full. Let's take a walk. To be honest, she didn't want to go back with Mo Yesi right now. On the one hand, she thought it would be too boring to go back to the hotel after dinner. He came to F City specially. She still wants to hang out with him. On the other hand, she is a little scared. She was afraid that Mo Yesi would catch her doing that kind of thing when she went back. The night before leaving Yunchinj, he held her hand for 2 hours without stopping. When she thought about it, her legs became a little weak. If you go back too early, I'm afraid this man will. She didn't want her legs to keep shaking during the filming tomorrow. You want to take a walk? Mo Yesi stopped. Chiao Mian nodded. Well, we just finished eating, let's go for a walk. Don't you think the moonlight is beautiful tonight? Mo Yesi. There is no moon at all tonight. Forget it, let's not expose her anymore. Since she wants to take a walk, then take a walk with her. Okay, I'll walk with you. Just wait. Mo Yesi let go of his hand, walked to the trunk, opened the door, and took out a black coat. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 686. Chapter 686, when she sees him now, her legs go weak. He put his coat on. Chiao Mian, it's a bit cold at night, so wear it. His coat looked very big on her. When Chiao Mian puts it on, it feels like a child sneaking into an adult's clothes. However, as soon as she put on the coat, she felt much warmer. Her breath was filled with the familiar and domineering aura of Mo Yesi, which made her feel particularly at ease. "What about you?" She raised her head and looked at him. But she saw Mo Yesi looking at her with a very strange look. His eyes seemed to have firelight flickering, and his eyes were a little dark, a little deep, a little. Chiao Mian's heartbeat quickened and she felt uncomfortable when he saw her. She stretched out her hand and pulled the sleeves of her suit jacket that were a little too long, exposing her small white hands, and blinked. "What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" The way Mo Yesi looked at her was a little scary. Chiao Mian felt a sense of fear of being targeted by a wild beast. She suddenly remembered that the night before she came to F City, Mo Yesi had this look in his eyes when he pushed her onto the bed and asked for her. But that night, his eyes were not so deep, and the fire in his eyes was not so hot. Chiao Mian suddenly felt a little weak in her legs. "Ahem, there seems to be a lake ahead, let's go for a walk by the lake." After she finished speaking, she turned around and walked forward quickly, her steps fast and panicked, as if there was something huge chasing her behind her. Woo woo woo. She is afraid. She decided to take a walk for at least 2 hours before going back. This man Mo Yesi is really terrible. She feels weak in the legs when she sees him now. Behind. The man who was still standing looked at the petite figure running away in front of him, his thin lips slightly raised, and a trace of determination flashed in his eyes. His baby is really cute. Do you think you can escape by running away? Just now as he watched her put on his coat, he suddenly had an idea. He decided to implement it when he went back tonight. As he thought about it, he couldn't wait any longer. Asterisk. Chiao Mian braved the cold night wind and walked along the lake for more than an hour. She stopped after walking until her stomach felt a little sore. Mo Yesi stopped with her and looked down at her with a smile under his eyes. "Baby, are you still leaving? You have to report to the set early tomorrow morning. It's getting late now, can we go back?" Chiao Mian originally wanted to fight to the death. But she thought she would have to get up early tomorrow morning, and if she continued like this, she would not be able to sleep well tonight. Moreover, her feet were so sore and weak now that she didn't want to continue walking at all. She took out her phone and checked the time, feeling that it should be safer at this time. Mo Yesi knew that she would have to get up early tomorrow morning, so he definitely couldn't bear to torment her. With this thought, she felt relieved and nodded. "Well, let's go back." "Do your feet hurt after walking for so long?" Mo Yesi looked at her weak look and reached out to rub her head. Chiao Mian raised her head and looked at him pitifully. "Well, it hurts a little." "Then you have to go for so long." Mo Yesi sighed helplessly and amusedly, rubbed the top of her head again, and said in a doting tone that he couldn't help her, "Baby, are you so afraid of me that you dragged me to the lake for so long and exhausted yourself like this?" End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 687. Chapter 687 I will carry you back. "What, you?" Chiao Mian's eyes widened with surprise. "How do I know?" Mo Yesi raised his eyebrows slightly and helped her finish what she had not finished. Chiao Mian, Could it be that she was too obvious? "Because I am your husband and the person who knows you best in the world." Mo Yesi turned around, slowly squatted down in front of her, and then said to Chiao Mian, who was still standing there with a surprised look on his face, "What are you still doing? Come up quickly and I'll carry you back." Chiao Mian was stunned. "Are you carrying me? Don't you have a foot pain?" Mo Yesi glanced at her and said, "Come up." Chiao Mian's feet hurt a little. "But it's not so painful that I can't walk." She lowered her eyes and looked at the man squatting in front of her. A hint of sweetness came to her heart. She walked over and gently put her hands on his shoulders. Moyesi slowly stood up while supporting her. Chiao Mian leaned on his back, hooked her hands around his neck, and said with overwhelming happiness, Moyesi, I want to ask you a question. Well, you asked. Moyesi slowly returned with her on his back. There were no people on the streets late at night. It was quiet all around. The man's steady and powerful footsteps echoed in the night, like tapping into Chiao Mian's heart. At this moment, Chiao Mian felt so soft in her heart. She pursed her lips and asked casually, have you ever carried someone else on your back before? After asking the question, I waited attentively for his answer. No. Moyesi quickly replied without any hesitation, you are the first. Oh. A smile appeared on the corners of Chiao Mian's lips. She pursed her lips and asked casually, then if someone asks you to carry it in the future, will you do it? Baby, who are you talking about? For example, your friends, or something. You mean the opposite sex? Chiao Mian was embarrassed to admit it. Moyesi curled his lips, don't worry, I won't let other women touch my body except you. Baby, only you can touch my body, and only you can enjoy it. When the word enjoy was mentioned, the man's voice became hoarse. Also became much hoarse. Chiao Mian's face suddenly turned red and she didn't say anything anymore. Moyesi, this stinky gangster. Asterisk. Half an hour later, Moyesi returned to the hotel with Chiao Mian on his back. After getting in the car, Chiao Mian closed her eyes and pretended to sleep. At first, she originally wanted to avoid Moyesi's advances by pretending to be asleep, but after pretending, she really fell asleep. When he arrived at the hotel, Moyesi parked the car and turned around to see her sleeping soundly. He called softly, baby. Chiao Mian closed her eyes tightly and showed no reaction. Moyesi couldn't bear to wake her up again. After thinking about it, he unbuckled her seat belt and got out of the car with her in his arms. Before he came, he opened a presidential suite in the hotel where Chiao Mian stayed. The elevator went directly to the presidential suite on the 38th floor. After reaching the 38th floor, Moyesi walked out of the elevator with Chiao Mian in his arms. The elevator on the other side also stopped. The elevator door opened, and Tuyuli and his agent Mike, who had just finished their midnight snack, walked out. He bumped into Moyesi who was carrying Chiao Mian out. Chiao Mian was still wearing Moyesi's big suit jacket. She buried her face in his chest, and her long hair fell down, covering the exposed half of her face. At first, Tuyuli didn't notice Moyesi. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 688. Chapter 688 Chiao Mian is my girlfriend. But Moyesi quickly noticed him. When he saw clearly that the man walking towards him was the man who was chatting happily with Chiao Mian in the photo, his eyes darkened, and the moment he passed by, he said, Mr. Tu. Tuyuli was obviously startled, stopped, and turned his head to look at him. Sir, are you calling me? Moyesi stared at him with his cold and deep eyes for a moment, then narrowed his eyes, showing a trace of hostility. Besides you, is there anyone else named Tu here? Tuyuli was also sizing him up. Even though he doesn't know Moyesi's identity yet, he is in the entertainment industry after all. He can rise from a newcomer with nothing to his current status, and his ability to observe people's emotions is naturally not bad. Tuyuli saw that Moyesi had an extraordinary status. The man in front of him had a very good-looking face, but he looked very strange. It was obvious that he was not from their circle. Furthermore, his aura is extremely powerful, and this aura cannot be possessed by artists in the entertainment industry. Tuyuli was stared at by his cold eyes and felt a lot of pressure. How do you talk? You have no manners at all. Mike glared at Moyesi dissatisfied. Do you know who our little Tutu is? Talk to him like this. Mike. Tuyuli stopped him with a wink, telling him to stop talking. Mike snorted from his nose, looking reluctant as a boss, but said nothing more. Sir, do you have anything to do with me? Tuyuli looked at Moyesi and asked politely. Moyesi looked coldly. It's nothing, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Tuesday. Tell me thank you. Tuyuli was stunned for a moment, with doubts in his eyes, and asked, why? We don't seem to know each other. We don't know each other, so I'm saying thank you to you on behalf of my girlfriend. Sir, I don't understand. Tuyuli frowned. Chiao Mian is my girlfriend. I heard from her that you take good care of her, so I want to say thank you to you on her behalf. It's getting late, I have to take her back to rest. Mr. Tu, let's talk some other time when we have time. After saying these words, Moyesi hugged Chiao Mian and turned around to leave. Tuyuli was stunned on the spot. After Moyesi had walked some distance away, he seemed to have come back to his senses and remembered what he had just said. He just remembered that Moyesi was holding a woman just now. He didn't pay attention to the woman. But now that I think about it, I gradually feel familiar. Even though the woman's face was covered by her hair, she could clearly tell that it was Chiao Mian from the other exposed parts. At this moment, Tuyuli felt as if something had scratched his heart. An indescribable pain slowly spread from the tip of his heart. Chiao Mian has a boyfriend. He had never thought about this problem. He thought she was still single. Xiao Tutu, did you hear it with your own ears just now? See it with your own eyes, can you give up now? Mike looked at his devastated look, shook his head, and sighed, that girl already has a boyfriend. And I think that man just now is no ordinary person. What he just said to you has a purpose. He must be I knew something, so I reminded you in that way. Don't be stupid again. While the relationship is not deep yet, stop thinking about her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 689. Chapter 689, not even a chance to fight for it. Tuyuli didn't seem to hear what he was saying. He was still looking at the direction Moyesi left, and remained silent without saying a word despite Mike nagging in his ear. Little Tutu, did you hear what I was telling you? Seeing that he didn't respond, Mike stamped his feet angrily. Stop thinking about that girl, she has no chance with you. You can take care of her. Focus on your career. When your career becomes stable in the future, don't say you want to fall in love. Even if you want to get married, that's fine. But now, don't think about the things you have and don't have. Just keep your heart close to my heart, do you hear me? Mike. After a long while, Tuyuli finally spoke up. He slowly retracted his gaze, with no expression on his face. He turned his head and looked at Mike calmly. Do you know? Mike frowned and asked doubtfully, what do you know? Tuyuli smiled, but the smile did not reach his eyes. This is the first time I like someone. Mike. This is the first time that I have been attracted to a girl. I know you will think that she and I have just met, and I don't have deep feelings for her yet, so I can let her go quickly. Even I think so myself. Little Tutu, what do you want to say? Tuyuli raised his lips and smiled again. I just feel that I am so unwilling to accept it. I have been waiting for so many years to find someone I like, but it has to end before it even begins. I didn't even have a chance to fight for it, so I had to force myself to give up. Mike, do you have any idea how bad this feels? I haven't felt this bad in a long time. Mike frowned and was silent for a while, then sighed softly, "Xiao Tutu, I was young too, and I also liked people. So, I can understand how you feel now. But, you also saw that she has a boyfriend. Her boyfriend seems to be a very good man, and he is a perfect match for her. You don't know how to do it, you just want to step in." "I didn't think so." "That's right. So, what else can you do besides giving up? This only shows that you are destined to be inseparable. If you really can't let her go, I won't force you to let her go. If you still want to like her, you can like it." Tuyuli raised his eyes in surprise. "Mike, you. My heart is with you, and you must like her. What can I do to you? But you should know it in your own mind. Just keep your love in your heart and don't show it anymore." Tuyuli pursed his lips, his delicate and handsome face covered with a faint gloomy color, and remained silent for a long time without saying a word. Mike said nothing more and stayed with him quietly. After a long time, the clenched fists at his side loosened little by little, and his lowered eyelashes trembled slightly. "Well, I understand." Mike stared at him. "Have you figured it out?" That's good." Mike stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder. "Let's go, it's getting late, go back and rest early. You have to get up early tomorrow morning." Asterisk. Chiao Mian was sleeping deeply. Moyesi carried her into the room and gently placed her on the big bed. During the whole process, she showed no sign of waking up. Seeing that she was sleeping so soundly, he couldn't bear to wake her up. He went to the suitcase and found a shirt. He gently took off her clothes and put the shirt on her. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 690. Chapter 690. Do you want to make one up for me too? During the process of taking off her clothes, on the big bed, the girl's crystal clear skin was glowing with a layer of white light. Moyesi's eyes slowly moved down from the girl's delicate and bright face, and his burning eyes fell on her smooth and white neck. And then that delicate chest like gelatin. The further down you go, the hotter the fire in the dark eyes becomes. What's more terrible is the alluring fragrance from her body still penetrated his nose. Those charming thoughts that he had suppressed were brought up again little by little. After the fingers that were helping her to button her shirt paused for a moment, Moyesi looked at the girl who put on his shirt with dark eyes, and his breathing became a little rapid. Just outside, when he watched her put on his suit jacket, he thought that if she lay on his bed wearing the same clothes, he would definitely lose control and press her down on the bed and force her. He has this idea now. Only. Looking at the sleeping girl, he could only take a deep breath and suppress the restless emotions in his body. No matter how much he wanted to, he couldn't wake her up while she was asleep. She has to get up early tomorrow morning. Alas, Moyesi sighed helplessly, quickly tied the last few buttons, pulled the thin quilt aside and covered her. She slept soundly. But he felt uncomfortable. After helping her change her clothes, he was sweating all over. He turned to the bathroom and took a cold shower for more than half an hour. He didn't walk out of the bathroom until the restless fire in his body was completely extinguished. Go back to the big bed. He reached out and pulled the girl wrapped in quilt into his arms, and put one arm around her waist domineeringly and possessively, holding her tightly in his arms. The sweet fragrance is tangy to his nose, and the faint fragrance of the girl makes him feel very comfortable all over. He didn't even tell her that he had trouble sleeping the night she was away. He was lying alone on the empty big bed, holding the pillow she had slept on, desperately breathing in her remaining breath on it. That night, he missed her very much. The 2 hours when I fell asleep near dawn, my dreams were all about her. At this moment, it is no longer a dream. She in his arms really existed. Tonight, he thought he would not have any trouble sleeping. Good night, darling. Moyesi lowered his head and kissed the girl in his arms gently on her forehead. He buried his head in her hair. Even though he knew she couldn't hear, he still whispered against her ear, "Baby, I love you, forever and ever, everybody loves you." Asterisk. Early the next morning, Moyesi and Xiao Mian got up early as they were about to take the earliest flight back to Yunchinj. After washing up, the two of them went downstairs to have breakfast, and Moyesi sent Xiao Mian to the set. In the car, Moyesi turned on the computer and used the half hour on the way to process the files that he had not finished yesterday. Xiao Mian took out her mobile phone and raced against time to browse some entertainment apps. After Moyesi finished processing the two documents, he reached out and rubbed his eyebrows. He turned to look at her. Seeing that she was staring at her phone very intently, he also lowered his head. He glanced casually and saw a video playing on her mobile phone. It seems to be a video related to jewelry. Xiao Mian looked at it and said in a very envious tone, "Wow, it's so romantic." Moyesi's gaze, which was about to be withdrawn, fell on the screen of her mobile phone again. After reading it with her, he thought about it, took one of her soft little hands and squeezed it gently. "You also want to make one up, give me." End of this chapter.